Well. Hasn't it been a very long time, ladies and gentlemen? A new year of League Chat with the Stat, season 2023 around the corner. Thank you so much for joining me again. First time this year, first time in a while. I apologize. I probably should have put something up that I had taken a bit of an indefinite break. Do apologize for that. Had to deal with some things, but we're back. Season 2023. I am absolutely stoked. My special guest unfortunately bailed on me early this afternoon. So, look, spewing, obviously, but it is what it is. So good to be back. You know, we've changed up the setup a little bit. Everything here looks exactly the same, but I'm recording off a camera. Considering I was recording off a phone for a very, very long time, it's exciting. Slow upgrades are being made. But look, guys, it is so good to be back. I'm so excited. Season 2023 is upon us. What a long off season. Even though we had the World Cup, we had a couple of the trials and the preseason challenges, we are back. Only a couple of days away for season 2023. It's your boy Stat once again coming through the clutch, back on your TV screens, your computer screens, your podcasting streams. I'm back, baby. I'm back, ready for a big year, ready for more guests, ready for more craziness around the NRL. I'm here. I'm ready. We're doing this. I'm very excited. It's so good to be here once again. Keep saying that. I'm very nervous. Been a while since I've been behind the camera. But look, done my little intro. Told you about the upgrades. Let's get into it. Season 2023. We're kicking off with the season preview. Part one of a two-part series of a season preview. And look, to be honest with you guys, we're starting off from the cellar dwellers of season 2022. And we'll be going through the 8 teams that finished in the bottom 8 of last year. We're going to cover the new team, the Dolphins, as well in this particular episode. But look, I don't want to waste any of your time. Let's get straight to it. We're going to start off with the West Tigers, the Wooden Spooners of last year. Made some serious changes in their recruitment, didn't they? Made a lot of upgrades. Bought in some certain areas that they needed to buy. Lost a bit of experience, but we're going to go through all that right now. So really excited for that. They gained Apisai Coruscant, two-time premiership winner from the Panthers. Isaiah Papali'i from the Eels, brilliant signing that. Tristan Riley from the Waratahs, big forward there from the Waratahs, pinch from Rugby Union. They got David Orfaluma back from Storm after he was there on loan last year. Charlie Staines from the Panthers. David Clemmer from the Knights. John Bateman, a massive signing from Wigan. Will Smith from Hull in Super League. Brendan Waken from the Tigers and Sione Fainu from the Sea Eagles. Some big gains there. Obviously, Apisai Coruscant, Isaiah Papali'i, John Bateman, David Clemmer. They've done a lot of work in their forward pack. And it's really good to see that they finally have turned the corner here, the Tigers, in their recruitment. They're not necessarily treated like a joke anymore. They're now starting to slowly become an attractive club that a lot of players want to play for now. So really good to see that. Tim Sheens is now joined on as the coach with Benji Marshall, Robbie Farah as the assistants as well. They've obviously lost a few players in saying that as well. Luke Garner has gone to the Panthers. Kelma Tuolagi has obviously gone over to the Sea Eagles. Zane Musgrove and Jacob Little have gone to the Saints. Jock Madden, the depth half, has gone to the Broncos. James Tarmo, doing 1 year over at the Cowboys. Oliver Gildart released early to go to the Dolphins. Tyrone Peachy released early to go to Panthers. Back where his playing career really took off. Jackson Hastings has gone to the Knights, and Fa'amanu Brown has gone over to the Bulldogs. Like I said, joining the assistant coaching ranks as well as David Furno, who I missed out earlier. On paper, probably one of the best recruited teams for season 2023 across the comp. They've dramatically changed, as I said, within that spine. You've got Dane Laurie at fullback. You've got Adam Dwyer here playing in the halves with Luke Brooks, who's expected to have a big year. And with the signing of Apisai Coruscant, it's a really good-looking spine, if I'm going to be honest with you. Very attractive, I've got to say. I mean, Bateman comes on, Papali'i comes on, David Clemmer comes on. Now their forward pack is formidable. I do have my concerns still in saying that. Now, the concerns I have, first things first, can the Tigers make the 8? I have concerns in their depth in the backs. Obviously, they've signed Charlie Staines. They've got Brent Naden. They've got David Norfoluma. They've got Asu Kapoa. They've got some handy players there already. And I'm just concerned with the backline depth. They've obviously got Ken Momalo as well. They've got the guy there from the Knights, Stafford Toa, who joined mid-season last year. So there are some decent players in that squad. Tommy Talau back from injury as well. However, I'm just concerned with the experience at the back line. I think they do need a strike centre, if I'm going to be completely real. If they can get a strike centre in, someone attractive, someone good on the market that can really help out the outside backs, I think would be a great signing for them. A lot of questions, as I said. I don't think the Tigers will make the 8. I think they will miss it just because I'm concerned about their backs. Luke Brooks, it's his last year. He's on $1.2 million due to the back end of the contract he signed back under Michael Maguire. A lot of talk on whether he is able to play his best season yet under Tim Sheens. Tim Sheens has been so keen to work with him. There's a lot of rumours of him going to the Knights before Jackson Hastings signed. Murmurs going on for a couple of years about that. Is this the year Luke Brooks can finally make an impact? He's now got a solid spine. He's got a great forward pack. The backs are okay, but enough's enough. I think Luke Brooks can make an impact, but it all depends on the forwards. If they can make those meters and gain those yardage early up and apply that pressure, it can allow Brooks with that creativity with Dwayne and Koroisau and Laurie to be able to go and create some havoc. They've gone on about their attack. They've gone on about how they've changed up their attack so much. So now it's time to see exactly what they're really made of. So look, I think Brooks can really do something this year. He stay injury-free, stay out of the headlines in terms of reading up on news about him and just keeping a cool head there. Now, it's the battle of fullbacks. Charlie Staines signed over from the Panthers. You got Dan Laurie, who's done a bit of training in the halves as well. But there's a kid who's coming through the ranks, Jareen Buller, coming through the ranks there and has played some good football. Now it's just a matter of who fits that fullback spot. To me, I think it's going to be Dan Laurie. I think he will be guaranteed the first spot. And with Dan Laurie coming in at fullback, he's with that experience already, obviously coming from the Panthers a few years back. He's ready to take his game to the next level. He's had a few injuries as well last year. Charlie Staines, I don't see more than a winger. I'll be surprised if he actually does make his debut for the top grade in the early rounds. Honestly, on the one year do as well, so he's really got to make an impact straight away. But look, I do think it'll be Dan Laurie. I think Buller will need to wait his time a little bit longer, play some games in the New South Wales Cup, wait on some injuries to happen, and then have a crack there at that fullback role. David Norfoluma, how will he go coming back from his stint at the Storm? I think he'll go really well. You could tell with the way David Norfoluma was playing and the mindset he was in, you could tell that he was really sick of it. He's been playing for the Tigers for many years, barely, if ever, made the finals. You know, he wanted to go and apply himself somewhere, get into a different environment, went to the Melbourne Storm, and look how well he did there. I mean, he killed it. He played some unbelievable footy. He turned his training around. He turned his whole life around in those few months at the Storm. He didn't even want to leave. But because this was such a big contract at the Tigers, he's obviously on loan, had to come back. But look, I think he'll make a positive impact with the signings they've made as well. It's a new dawn, new coach, new era. And although Norfoluma has been part of a few of those, I believe his best football is really ahead of him. He's going to have a great year this year. So I'm excited to see the experience he can bring to the other backs that they've signed as well, and just to the club in general, what he can do there. There was a signing that we had touched over, Will Smith from Hull. A very good utility signing. He was great at Parramatta, filled in wherever he could. Had a stint over at Gold Coast Titans, also had a stint over in England, but now has signed a deal with the Tigers. And I believe he can make a very solid impact off the bench. You know, he's got that experience in the halves, he's got that experience at hooker. He can play anywhere, pretty much in the back line, if tasked, even at fullback as well. So he brings a lot of experience with him, and he is pretty handy. Although he's coming towards the end of his career, being about 29, 30 years old, I still think he does have a lot to offer, and I think he'll be someone that he'll be able to have a massive impact off the bench for the Tigers if they go down that utility route. And I think the big question for the Tigers is, does Tim Sheens really have what it takes for the next 2 years? He's done well so far, hasn't he? Well, I've just gone over the recruitment. I've gone over everything they've got so far. The new Centre of Excellence has come through. New era. I think he's still got what it takes. I think he still knows how to win those games, to be a successful coach, to be doing it at the ripe age of 73. The guy's a machine. I still think he's got it. You hear people saying all the time, oh, he hasn't coached it for over 10 years. He's lost his touch. Doesn't know what he's going to do. But with people like David Ferner, Robbie Farah, Benji Marshall, he's got a good stead ahead of him. So I'm really excited to see how the Tigers will go this year. Like I said, I don't think they'll make the finals, but I do know that Tim Sheens will have a more positive impact in his tenure there than Maguire did the entire time he was there. Moving on to the next club, the New Zealand Warriors have made some pretty solid signings by signing Marata Niukore from the Eels, Luke Metcalf from the Sharks, Walker from the Sea Eagles, Mitch Barnett from the Knights, Charles Nicoll-Klokstad from the Raiders, Tamari Martin from the Broncos, Jackson Ford from the Dragons, and Braden Williami from French Rugby Union. However, they have lost Ewan Aitken to the Dolphins, Reece Walsh to the Broncos, Elisa Katoa to the Storm, Aaron Penne to Storm as well, Jack Murchie to the Eels, Ben Murdoch-Masila to the Saints, Dejan Arce to the Eels, and Taniela Otukolo to the Dolphins on a train and trial contract there. A lot of changes. They've had another disappointing year. Nathan Brown has now moved on. Stacey Jones was a caretaker coach of last year. But they have had to make some pretty decent signings. Losing Reece Walsh is a big one for them. Obviously returning home to the Brisbane Broncos, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But they do get Charles Nicoll-Klokstad to come back to the club, coming back home after a few years away in Canberra. The signing of Tamari Martin in the halves of Sean Johnson, really exciting. We saw how well he came back from his the bleeding in the brain for the Broncos and the impact he had at that club last year. So really excited to see him secure a future there at the Warriors and attempt to make that jersey number 6 his own. And like I said, Luke Metcalf was signed from the beginning of 2022, so there's been big raps on him and the impact he can have in a side like the Warriors. Neil Corey Barnett beefing up the front row there, and a couple of depth signings in Braden Williami and Jackson Ford as well. Now, question everyone's one, can the Warriors make the 8? I don't think so. I still think they are lacking a bit more punch in the forwards. They have made some great signings, but it all depends on Sean Johnson and the form that he can really carry. He had a very disappointing campaign last year, which is another question that's been popularly asked, whether he can bounce back from that. He's a new coach now. Andrew Webster's come in. I think he can bounce back. It's going to take some time to build those combinations with the Chans, with Wade Egan at hooker and Tamari Martin at 5'8". And obviously, we all know the top player Sean Johnson can be. It's his last year. He obviously opted to go to the Warriors instead of coming to the Bulldogs in the last season. He knows he needs to step up. It's his time. It probably could be even his last contract. So this is a year to make a break for Sean Johnson. I think he can have a positive impact, but he needs to do it consistently. And as long as he's playing well, the Warriors are playing well. And so they really need to keep that up afloat. The halves battle between Tamari Martin and Luke Metcalf was obviously won by Tamari Martin. Luke Metcalf did injure himself, and he's out for 8 or so weeks of the season. So a big loss there for the Warriors already, but Tamari Martin, great player. We know exactly what he can do, and genuinely looking forward to seeing the impact he can have in that spine and playing with someone like Sean Johnson as well. You got to remember Tamari Martin as well did play grand final for the Cowboys. He was instrumental in that run. It was about 6 or 7 years ago. So we know exactly what he can bring, and we'll know that he'll be influential for a side like the Warriors. The Newcastle Knights have made some pretty handy signings. They've signed Adam Elliott from the Raiders, Jack Hetherington from the Bulldogs, Tyson Gamble from the Broncos, Jackson Hastings from the West Tigers, Greg Marziu from the Titans, and Lachlan Miller from the Sharks. They've lost Mitch Barnett to the Warriors, Edric Lee to the Dolphins, Jerome Momoisia to the Eels, Tex Hoy to Hull, Anthony Milford to the Dolphins, Sawaso Su to Hull Kingston Rovers in the Super League, Pasami Solo to the Raiders, Jake Clifford to Hull FC, David Clement to the Tigers, Chris Randall to the Titans, and Max Bradbury to the Cronulla Sharks. I think it's a decent recruitment by the Newcastle Knights. They finally get a solid number 7, which they've been craving for a while. Adam Quid has failed. Jake Clifford has failed. Jackson Hastings is probably their best signing, looking at those signings there. They beef up their forward pack with Adam Elliott, with the bumpy year he had last year for the Canberra Raiders. They get Jack Hetherington cheap from the Bulldogs, missing a lot of last year with a shoulder injury, but we know the aggression he brings to a side. If you can keep those high tackles to a minimum, we know the impact he can have in a team like the Newcastle Knights. Beefed up their backs with signings of like Greg Marziu from the Gold Coast Titans, and just how good he was. He was part of a swap deal with Chris Randall, and Lachlan Miller, who has been touted as the fullback for the Sharks, with Ponga moving to 5'8". Only come in recently, been there for the last couple of weeks, so it needs some time to build up those combinations. And look, like I said, they did lose a lot in Clement and Barnett. I thought they were really solid for the Newcastle Knights, but they've beefed it up with Elliott, like I said, Hetherington, and getting that 7, a controlling 7 like Jackson Hastings, and some of the performances he put in for the Tigers last year was outstanding. Still blows my mind sometimes to think that Tim Sheets could only use him at 13, which is absolutely absurd. But, like I said, he's now got a shot at the Knights. He can really cement himself there. Got a decent contract now. It's a 3-year deal. It's not a 1 year or 2 year. More security there. And the question I have has been asked to me, is can Knights make the top 8? I really don't think so, and it comes down to Adam O'Brien. I don't like his coaching methods. I don't like how he jumps the gun and he makes decisions that are pretty useless. I don't think Callum Ponga is ready to move from 1 to 6. For the club, he barely plays good at 1, if any, barely plays at all, to be honest with you, which is what my next question here. In taking a look, can Ponga handle his first season at 5'8"? He did okay at fullback for the Newcastle Knights. They obviously struggled a lot of the seasons. He obviously missed a lot of last year with concussion, but now he's moving into 5'8", and it's going to take some time for him to adjust. I'm usually someone that is very easy to smash someone early on, but I'm not someone that really rates Callum Ponga, and I'm really concerned to see how he will go at the Knights. He's got that attacking flair about him that we've all seen, we've all known, but now he's signed a massive deal. He's the captain of the club, massive responsibility for a player who's on big money and isn't already playing phenomenal football. The only times he really plays good is when he plays State of Origin and under Billy Slater and under the players around him at fullback. He is one to watch out for. He's unreal. But I do have my concerns with him being at 5'8" and just taking their time to adjust to their spine of Jaden Brayley, Jackson Hastings, Callum Ponga, and Lachlan Miller, especially with Miller only being there for a couple of weeks. The question also been asked to me is, will Adam O'Brien finish the season as coach? I really don't think so. I'm giving him 6 rounds. I don't know how he keeps fooling the club to keep him on. I don't see how he continually gets the backing of the board. And it would be a surprise to me if he even looks at finishing out the year. I'll be really honest in saying that there. So, obviously some coaches come into mind. Des Hasler could go in there and shake some things up, and Shane Flanagan could go in and shake some things up at that club and get them to where they need to be. They've been mediocre for so long now. Adam O'Brien's had his chance. He needs to go. They do need to move forward. I don't see him finishing the season. Now, we've discussed Callum Ponga handling his first season at 5'8", which, as I said, could better do it at fullback. So, bit of good luck there. The signing of Jackson Hastings, I think, is so important for the club. They finally have a controlling halfback who's got that experience, here and abroad. He's played for the Roosters, played for the Seagulls, played for the Tigers. And he's played over for the Red Devils over in the Super League. We know exactly the type of player he can be. We know exactly the role and the voice he is in the team. It's now time for him to step up and show exactly the Nova Castrians exactly what he can do for that side and how controlling he can be for that side. Players like Miller, players like Ponga, and even Brady will need to follow his lead. They will be instrumental if they can keep injury free and they just listen to what Hastings has to say and the way he communicates and the way he runs that team. They could really shift some heads around and they could really do something to really make some sort of an impact. I still don't think they'll make the finals, but Jackson Hastings is a really important piece for that club and having a solid halfback there. Now, how long will it take for the spine to click? I mean, it's a new spine. I'll give it 8 to 10 weeks. Coming up shortly is the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. And obviously they've got changes to their spine. Gold Coast Titans have changes to their spine. The Warringah Seagulls, St. George, Broncos, almost every team has had changes to their spine. Those that finish in the bottom 8. So it takes about 8 to 10 rounds once you've got that rhythm and you're injury free, and once those connections start really coming through and all that training. It'll obviously take some time to click, but I say 8 to 10 rounds before we start seeing real solid performances from the spine. And what impact will Jack Hetherington have in his first year in the new colours? If he can stay away from high tackles and keep that aggression, he can be someone of a leader at that club. With the signing of Adam Elliott to the club as well, we both know the potential that they both have, which is really exciting. And I genuinely think that he can have a great first year at the club. He stays injury-free, stays fit, controls that aggression, uses it at the right times. He can really make a difference at the club like the Knights, who have lacked a little bit of aggression over the years, with Clemmer being very inconsistent in his time there. So, the next club we'll be looking at is the Gold Coast Titans. Have made some interesting signings here, the Gold Coast Titans. Kieran Foran, a sign from the Seagulls, Sam Verrills from the Roosters, Joe Stimson from the Bulldogs, Aaron Schott from the Bulldogs, and Chris Randall from the Knights. They've lost Jared Wallace to the Dolphins, Jermaine Asako to the Dolphins, Corey Thompson did announce his retirement, Herman Sasa to the Dolphins, Sam Lozone has gone to Leeds in the Super League, Craig Marzu, as I mentioned, to the Knights, and Kevin Proctor has joined Wakefield in the Super League as well. They weren't necessarily insanely busy, the Gold Coast. They picked up Kieran Foran, which is a very risky signing, 2 years, $750,000 deal. Very risky considering his injury history. He's been in some unreal form at Manly. He played some very good football. but I feel like they've gone backwards. And why I say that is because they got rid of Jamal Fogarty in the preseason of 2021 leading into the season 2022. Let him go to Raiders on a 3-year, $1.2 million deal. Relied on Toby Sexton to obviously make an impact at the club. And Sexton was dropped. They realised that they needed improvement in the halves because their spine was very, very young and very inexperienced. But the Titans have gone out now, have shopped for someone like Kieran Foran. If he can stay injury-free, he'll have a massive impact at the club. They've got a good hooker now in Sam Verrills, a premiership winner from the Roosters. He'll be able to come in and change things up there for the club and give a bit of direction at a dummy half. And Aaron Schopp from the Bulldogs, a great signing. I really rate that signing. As a Bulldogs fan, I saw how he performed defensively. He was impressive. In attack, he was all right. The Titans have nabbed someone good. Now it's a matter of him putting those performances in. Now, can the Titans make the 8? I'm really concerned, and I don't think so. The reason I say that, there's just question marks over the fitness of Verrills, who's been injured a lot, of Kieran Foran, who's been injured a fair bit as well. The way they've put Alexander Boomsman back at fullback with Campbell at 14, which I like, but I just don't know if that's kind of the right way to go at this present moment. Maybe that could switch a fair bit, in the season coming up. But I just don't think they have enough of what it takes. They have a great forward pack, but I'm really concerned about that spine. So I don't think they will make the 8. Is AJ Brimson a right fit at fullback over Campbell? Based off experience, yes. Based off what he can do, yes. I still think Campbell is a handy player. Just needs a bit of time, and he'll be able to come off the bench and make a really solid impact, 20, 30 to go, before the game ends. So how would they fit three solid centers into two center positions? So they've got Brian Kelly, Aaron Schopp, and Philip Sammy. We both know what kind of football Kelly can play and Sammy can play and even Schopp can play. I do know that there is a suspension at the moment or an injury to Philip Sammy, which may hinder him starting the season. So Schopp and Kelly will go in. That would obviously be my first choice centre pairing, and I'll probably put Philip Sammy on the wing. And then he'll be able to replace Khan Pereira, who's been touted as the next big superstar in the Queensland Cup ranks. So that's probably how I'd fit it all in. Obviously, bar injuries, you'd put one of them back into centres and everything else. But that's exactly how I see that going. How would Dave Fafita see bigger minutes and less time on the bench? Dave Fafita is an 80-minute player. Yeah, he'll come off the bench and he will cause havoc. He will be so influential for a side like the Titans, but they just don't know how to use him. With the big pay packet he's on, the ability of playing 80 minutes, I don't know why Holbrook made the decisions he made in playing him for 45, 50 minutes a game when he is an 80-minute player. Bo Firma outshone him last year. They've got two great second rollers there in Firma and Fafita. Got to have them both on there for 80 minutes. You know exactly what you're going to get from both of them. And I'm looking forward to seeing a fitter David Fafita this year, not injured as much, and want to really make a difference at a club like the Titans. Who's the best fit to partner Kieran Foran in the halves? I think with the options provided, it's Tanner Boyd, which they're going to most likely start the season with him. Which brings another question. How will the spine go? Verrills at 9. You've got Tanner Boyd at 7. You've got Kieran Foran at 6. And you've got AJ Brimson at 1. And it's going to take some time for them to develop, get used to each other. But I think with Tanner Boyd's connection with David Fafita back in the school days and going through the ranks, I reckon they can really bring that combination back and get that firing. And you can even put Foran there with Firma or even Fafita as well. And they can get those forwards firing. So there is ability for the Titans to make the out. I just don't see it at the moment. It's going to take some time for this spine to click. But I believe the pressure cooker is on Justin Holbrook. He's had enough time there to make some changes. The big loss of Fogarty, to bank on Sexton for that to not work, very disappointing. To have signed a 32, 33-year-old who's pretty injury prone, it gives me some doubt of him lasting the season. But look, with Foran coming to the club, putting a bit of pressure of leadership of Tino Fa'asuma La'awi, the Titans will go better this year than they did last year. I just don't think the finals is going to be for them this year. Now to talk about my club, the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Very busy off-season. Probably the best team either in front or just behind the Tigers on even playing field in terms of recruitment. We've been a joke of a club for the last 6-7 years. We've made some great signings and we're looking to really make an impact in this competition. Viliama kick out from the Panthers, Reid Marnie from the Eagles, Ryan Sutton from the Raiders, Andrew Davey from the Sea Eagles, Franklin Pele from the Sharks, Hayes Perrin from the Eagles, Fa'amanu Brown from the Tigers, Josh Reynolds from Hull, Jacob Preston from the Roosters, and Carl Olawapu from the Broncos. In saying that, we have shed a lot of players as well. Corey Allen's gone to the Roosters, Matt Dury to the Eagles, Matt Duffy to the Wolves, Jack Hetherington to the Knights, Josh Jackson, who announced his retirement in the off-season, Jeremy Marshall-King to the Dolphins, Brent Naden to the Tigers, Aaron Schopp to the Titans, Avasi Manifungai to the Lay Leopards in the Super League, Joe Stimson to the Gold Coast Titans, Paul Vaughan to the Wolves, and Brendan Wakeham to the Tigers. It's a crazy recruitment drive. We finally have a solid 9 in Reid Marnie for the first time since Michael Ennis. We have improved the signing of a kick-out. Franklin Pele, young boy coming through, Sutton. So we've beefed up our forward pack a lot. An underrated signing in Jacob Preston, seeing him playing well in the preseason challenge. He's been touted as a future leader of the club. A bit of a Josh Jackson mold. So I'm really excited to see how he's going to go this year. Carl Olawapu, the big Queensland sensation from the Queensland Cup, who so the Queensland schoolboys obviously had some dramas there at the Broncos, and now comes to the Dogs on a 4-year deal. So he's someone that will be developing in New South Wales Cup, which I'm really excited to see. Now the question is, can the Bulldogs make the 8? And I'm willing to be honest. I don't think they'll make the 8. They are a fullback and a halfback away from really making a positive impact on the competition. And that's where they will lack this year. I think Kyle Flanagan getting in a full preseason compared to no preseason last year is a big deal. The new coaching style of Cameron Ciraldo is one I'm really keen to watch out on and to really keep an eye out for, just to see exactly how he's going to utilize these boys to get the best out of him in attack and also in defense. Now, will Flanagan have a breakout season? I'm expecting him to have a better year than he did last year. I'm expecting him to, with the solid backs that we have, with the forward pack that we've got, there is no more excuses for Flanagan. It's a make or break year for him. If it doesn't work out this year, he'll be off to the Super League. I can't see him really sticking around. And if I'm going to be quite honest, it's just going to be a tough year for him if he doesn't adapt as well as we think he can. Now, Tavita Pangai Jr. shed a lot of weight. He's now under 110 kilos. He's the fittest he's ever been. Now he's going to be moving out prop. Can we see a breakout year from him? I think we can. He played some very good football at the Panthers. His favourite coach to ever play under was Ciraldo, and he's even played with under Bennett. So he's got high raps on Ciraldo. I know that he's got a calf injury at the moment. We'll keep him out for the first at least month of football, but I know when he comes back, I'm excited to see the impact he's going to have. So that is definitely one to watch out for this year in TPJ, but I'm excited to see what he can do this year and see what he can really bring to the club. What impact will Reid Marnie bring to the side? He'll be calm. He'll be composed. There are times in Parramatta where he has overplayed his hand a little bit. Now, I believe that may be the case at times here as well. But look, with effective communication in that spine of him, Flanagan, Burden, and Hayes Perham, who will be the new fullback starting off this season, I'm excited to see exactly how he'll flourish, how he'll go. I did see a bit of him in the preseason challenges. I thought he played really well. Still finding his grooves, going to take some time, but he brings a lot of experience to the side like the Dogs, who've been lacking a hooker since Michael Ennis. And how will Cameron Ciraldo go in his first year as head coach? I'm intrigued. He's going to have a lot of ups and downs. He knows that the Bulldogs are about 5 to 10 year project in terms of developing the juniors and developing things off the field. But on the field, I see the Dogs finishing between 9th and 10th. I was going to say to 11th. I don't think they'll go that bad. I think 9th and 10th is where they'll sit. I don't see them making the 8. He'll have a pretty good season. But with the signings of Stephen Crichton next year, Bronson Cherry, and a couple others coming through, he'll have a much better year next year than what he will have this year. So it's going to hit him like a ton of bricks. First time as a head coach, but I'm excited to see what he can do with what he's brought to the club, the professionalism, and just the training habits as well that he's brought to the side. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can bring to our organisation as well. Manly Warringah Sea Eagles are the next team we're going to discuss. They've signed Ben Condon from the Cowboys, Kelma Tuolagi from the Tigers, Nathaniel Roach from the Eels, and Cooper Johns from the Storm. They've lost Kieran Thornton to the Titans, Dylan Walker to the Warriors, Martin Taupa'u to the Broncos, Andrew David to the Bulldogs, and Sione Fainu to the Tigers. They've also signed Anthony Seabold as their head coach, obviously moving on from Des Hasler. So with the new coaching staff there of Flanagan, Dimmick, and Seabold, I'm excited to see exactly how they'll pan out. Now, can the Sea Eagles make the 8? It really all depends on Tom Trbojevic. He went over to America, worked under Bill Knowles to get his hamstrings right, to get his shoulder right, obviously injuring his hamstring in the preseason as well. we've seen the football they can play without him, but we've also seen the football that they can play with him. And I think as long as he is fit, you can see the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles in that top 8. But if he's not fit and he's lacking a lot of injuries and lack of fitness and game time, especially early on, it will cost the Sea Eagles later. Now, we're obviously hoping he stays injury-free, but there are some concerns for the Sea Eagles heading into the season around Tom Trbojevic. Well, Josh Schuster proved the doubters wrong as the new 5'8". He has lost a lot of weight. He has put a lot of effort in the preseason. With him missing a few rounds, I think just the one round of the calf injury, I'm a bit skeptical to see how he's going to go. I know he can bring that flair. He's always wanted to play 5'8". He was a great second rower. So he's going to take some time to transition from second row to 5'8". I think he can do it. It's going to take some time for him to be able to find his straps there in the number 6 jersey. And obviously with someone like Cherry Evans there and Tom Trbojevic and Lachlan Croker, we don't want to know what they can do, when they all play together. Now, the next question I have is, will Anthony Seibold's time at the Sea Eagles be a successful one? Honestly, every single day he's got to get it right. He did it well at the Rabbitohs in that 1 year, had a miserable time at the Broncos, went and worked under Eddie Jones for a little bit, and now there's a bit of a redemption story of him coming back into the NRL, and it's really good to see. But he's got to get everything right every single day to maintain success. He's got to be on top of his side in terms of the selections he picks each week, the best positions for them, what he can get out of them. So he's got a tough gig on his hands, but I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how he will be going for season 2023 and on. Moving on to the St. George Illawarra Dragons. They've signed Jacob Little from the Tigers and Musgrove from the Tigers, Ben Murdoch-Masila from the Warriors, and Nick Louis-Tolso from the Queensland Cup. Probably the poorest recruitment in the NRL for season 2023. They have lost George Burgess, who announced his retirement. Tarek Sims went to the Storm. Andrew McCulloch retired. Josh Maguire went to Warrington Wolves. Jack Kajewski to the Cowboys. Jackson Ford to the Warriors. And Pawasa Famawasili to the Dolphins. Very quiet on the recruitment front. Little being their main signing. Little's okay. Obviously better than McCulloch, but not that much better. But I'm a bit disappointed in the Dragons. With the team they have and with the signings they've made, they're really in a downward spiral at the moment. Can they make the 8? Absolutely not. Losing Talatau Amoni stood down from the whole year due to off-field incident. Cody Ramsey to the illness that he's got going on at the moment, which we wish all the best for, for both blokes, but obviously in terms of the illness for Cody Ramsey. I'm concerned with how the Dragons are going to go. I've got them as favourites for the Wooden Spoon at the moment, so they're definitely not going to make the finals, in my opinion. Will Zach Lomax switch to the other side of the field to help the side defensively? It may help one side defensively, but to put Mikhaili Ravalawa on the wing and Moses Sully in the centres, I'm a little bit skeptical. They're both not phenomenal in defence, so I do have my concerns around that. So Lomax will improve the other side of the field, but the right side, there's going to be a lot of question marks around as well. It's going to be a tough year for the Saints in that regard. The Cyrus line last year at fullback, I think they don't have much of a choice. I know they've got a new kid coming through. To be honest, I do apologise. I don't have his name off the top of my head at the moment, but Sloan's had a rough preseason. Was almost going to the Dolphins, asked for his immediate release, got it rejected. Cody Ramsey got injured with his illness, obviously, and give someone like, someone like Tyrell Sloan to really have an impact at fullback. He had a rough year last year, went through a lot, but it's a new year, full preseason under his belt. So I am keen to see how he'll go. I think he will last the year. If he is that terrible and he gets dropped again, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he asked for a release again. But yeah, it's going to be a tough year for the Saints, and I think he's going to have a pretty mediocre year. Will they suffer another slump? Yes. I've tipped them as my wooden spoon. I don't think they'll make much of an impact this year, as much as they talk about wanting to make the finals. They haven't really settled on a halves partner. I'm not too sure exactly how they're going to go, if I'm going to be 100% honest with you. But, they've got Jaden Sullivan, who can play 5'8", who should be the favourite in 5'8". We're just going to see what happens there. And, yeah, if the way things are going, I think it's going to be a really tough year for the Saints there. For the 9th place finished, the Brisbane Broncos have signed Reece Walsh from the Warriors, Martin Taupa'u from the Sea Eagles, Jock Madden from the Tigers, and Tyson Smoothie from the Storm. They've lost Jake Turbin to the Chooks, Gamble to the Knights, Tamari Martin to the Warriors, Zach Hosking to the Panthers, Ryan James announced his retirement, David Mead announced his retirement, Joanna Sarko, Tessie New, and Bronco Lee to the Dolphins, and Reece Kennedy to the Hull Kingston Rovers. Great pickup in getting Reece Walsh back to the club, puts him in a very dangerous spine, with Walters at 9, who I think Corey Pay should be the starting 9 at the Broncos, with Adam Reynolds, Ezra Mam, potentially even Jock Madden, and Reece Walsh at fullback. I'm really excited to see how they're going to go. How will Reece Walsh... will Broncos make the top 8? I think they can. I don't know if they will, but I think they can. Depends obviously on the form and fitness and everything else. They do have the team to make it. I think there are just some teams that could pip them, but if they do make it, it won't be higher than 8th. That'd be my prediction there. How will Reece Walsh handle the pressure? His new name was already in the news. For that incident he had in the club with Dave Fafita, which was honestly nothing. I think he should be able to handle it okay. He's got a few years in the NRL, knows what it takes. But he is a young kid. But I think if he stays disciplined, stays focused, with the experience heads around in the club, I'm sure he'll have a better year and hopefully stay more composed. How important is the signing of Taupa'u? I think it's a very important signing for the club. I think they need to have that extra depth in the forwards. Obviously losing Ryan James. They've got Corey Jensen, they've got Tom Flegler, they've got Payne Haas. They've got Keenan Palacia. They've got all these players in there that can really make an impact. But I think his experience and his leadership will be invaluable to the Broncos. And he'll be able to help someone out like Payne Haas, who's been carrying that forward pack on his back for years. Now, can Kotoni Staggs get through an injury for a year? I really don't know. I hope so. He's trained the house down this preseason. He's looking really good. We all know how good Kotoni Staggs can be when he's on fire and when he's playing his most dangerous football. We saw that in the first part of last year. So I'm intrigued to see how he'll go. I'm keen to see how he shapes up. And I think he'll be able to have a positive year. And I think he's going to have a better year this year. So I'm excited to see what we expect from Kotoni Staggs. Is Corey Pay starting hook over Billy Walters? I say yes because he's better, but I'm also going to say no because I think Pay is better off the bench. And they've got Blake Moisier coming through the ranks, who's been touted the next Cameron Smith. There's so many raps around the kid. So they do have pressure applied there, but I do think Pay coming off the bench brings a different spark to the Broncos and will bring something in attack. Especially coming against the sides that are getting a bit weak towards the second half. He can come on and really have a massive impact and be influential for his time on the field. And Corey had, like you said, he's had a massive preseason as well. So I'm really looking forward to him going there, but he should be off the bench with Walters starting. But I wouldn't be surprised if Blake Moisier takes Walters' spot, and we'll see what happens after that. Now, for the first time ever, we talk about the Dolphins. They've recruited pretty average. Bennett obviously found it very hard to attract a lot of the high-class talent. He's attracted a bit more talent for season 2024 already in Herbie Farnworth and, Thomas Flegler. But this is who he has signed for season 2023 in the inaugural season. Ewan Aitken from the Warriors, Jesse Bromwich from the Storm, Kenneth Bromwich from the Storm, JJ Collins, Herman Essa from the Titans, Pawasa Famau-Asili from the Dragons, Troy Fuller, Tom Gilbert from the Cowboys, Oliver Gildart from the Roosters, Cody Hunter, Jermaine Saka from the Broncos, Robert Jennings from the Panthers, Isaiah Katoa from the Panthers, Felice Kafusi from the Storm, Brenko Lee from the Broncos, Edric Lee from the Knights, Corneli Lumelu from the Cowboys, Jeremy Marshall-King from the Bulldogs, Anthony Milford from the Knights, Mark Nichols from the Rabbitohs, Cody Nikorima from the Rabbitohs, Tessie New from the Broncos, Sean O'Sullivan from the Panthers, Ray Stone from the Eels, Hamiso Tabuai-Fodou from the Cowboys, Valence Tafare, Mason Teague, Setu Tu, and Jared Wallace from the Titans. A lot of good forwards there. A lot of inexperience in the backs. Bennett has got his work cut out for him. But I do have a lot of questions. Can the Dolphins make the 8? No. I think they're going to need a lot of time to gel. We obviously saw how a new franchise comes in and they really take their time. They have their struggles. They get a few wins, but they are going to seriously struggle this year. And I'm just not confident with the signs that they've got at the moment. They can really make much of an impact this year. How will Wayne Bennett go in his first year as coach? I think he'll get really frustrated. Like it's only a 2-year deal he's staying before he hands the reins over to Christian Wolf. But I think he will enjoy his time as well. It's his last 2 years of coaching over an incredible career across, the Broncos, the Dragons, the Knights, the Rabbitohs, and now the Dolphins. So I think he's going to really enjoy it. He's going to let Wolf take over the ranks a little bit more and get him developed to be that head coach when he does take over Bennett. I think he'll really enjoy it, and I think he'll start to make more signings and be astute for the club off the field as well. Now, will we see the brilliance of Anthony Milford again now that he's reunited with Wayne? I hope so. I do believe so. I think it's going to take him some time. Bennett is the only man that can instill that confidence in someone like Anthony Milford. The early talk is that Isaiah Katoa will start the year over Milford, which is disappointing. there must be something going on in his life, or it must be poor efforts in training, or how much he wants it. But I just, for the 19-year-old kid to be starting over him is a bit concerning, if I'm going to be honest. But like I said, I'm excited to see if Bennett can get the best out of him, what he can do, and if not, it's a make or break. I don't see any other club picking up Milford unless he's a utility for 15, 20 minutes a game off the bench. How will the spine gel? It will take a very long time. Marshall King at 9, O'Sullivan at 7, Katoa at 6, or Milford at 6, and Tab Wyford at 1. It's a very young spine. It's a young squad. In terms of the backs, I think they're going to struggle. But they need to make some priority signings around the spine to really make an impact in this competition. Ray Stone or Tom Gilbert to start at lock? Look, I want Ray Stone. I know what he can bring to the side, but I know what he can bring off the bench as well. Gilbert had a bumpy year last year for the Cowboys, and he played a big role in them going the way they did at the prelims. I think Gilbert to start. I think he will start anyway, and Stone's impact off the bench is second to none. So I think Gilbert will lock in at jersey 13, and Ray Stone will take over his spot on the bench. Guys, thank you for joining me. Episode 1 done in this part 2 series of the 2023 season preview. That was the bottom 8 of last year, as well as the Dolphins. And we'll be going to cover on the next podcast the 2023 season preview part 2, where we go through all the teams of the top 8 of last year, and we'll discuss the ins and outs and question marks surrounding how they'll go this year. Thank you for joining me. It's good to be back in the hot seat. Like, share, subscribe. We're all over the shop, Facebook, Insta, and YouTube as well. Obviously, looking forward to seeing what we can do this year. Hopefully get more guests as well and go from there. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. All the best and have a great year. Enjoy season 2023 for what it is, and get ready for part 2 of this 2-part series. Take it easy.